Some in the far right have been melting down over the recent mystery drone sightings over New Jersey. In fact, according to a joint statement released by the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Defense, and the FAA, the FBI has received tips of more than 5,000 reported drone sightings in the last few weeks, with approximately 100 leads generated, and the federal government is supporting state and local officials in investigating these reports. And so a lot of people have been seeing things, weird things in the sky. They've been reporting them. And then the right wing comes in and says, you know what? It's either the government or it's the aliens or there's something going on. It's the Iranians, possibly, with their mothership in the ocean somehow. All sorts of weird stuff. Now, that said, the government's not saying what they are, probably because the government doesn't know. I know. The government knows everything. Oh, do they? Pretty sure they don't. Pretty sure that on a lot of things, our government's kind of clueless. It would be very, very difficult to hide the existence of alien beings on Earth. Okay, I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but it'd be pretty difficult, especially with how dysfunctional our current government is today. I know it's not the same government that did manage to hide the Manhattan Project from the American people during World War II, but things are a little bit more sophisticated today. People are a little bit more clued in. They're looking in for conspiracies everywhere. Much, much more difficult to do nowadays to hide something like that. So I don't think that. I just think they don't know what they're doing. Okay. Nonetheless, that's getting into the speculation portion of this, right? Because there are others out there, people that are speculating that this could be aliens. All right. Maybe it is an alien force.
It is an alien force, not of this world.
I don't know.
It's not human intelligence.
But maybe it is, maybe it isn't, right? But I can tell you what it's not. This is a post from Republican State Senator Doug Mastriano of Pennsylvania, who said, "It is inconceivable that the federal government has no answers, nor has taken any action to get to the bottom of these unidentified drones. The fecklessness of this administration was on display last year when a Chinese surveillance balloon was allowed to fly over the entire continental United States before being shot down. Such should be viewed as a threat to our nation and citizens, and action is long overdue. We have the and assets in our arsenal to get answers, but I suppose Ukraine is more important to the White House. January 20th can't come soon enough." And you can see the picture there. It is of a TIE fighter. Breaking news: crash drone in Orange Beach retrieved from water and taken to undisclosed location for further investigation. Yes, that's it. That's it. And soon.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
Oh my God, this guy posted a picture of a TIE fighter. It's like, we need to get to the bottom of this one. Okay, all right. Stupid.
You idiot.
It's not a drone. It's not an alien spaceship. It's a model of a TIE fighter. Okay. It's a prop. That's it. Seeing an elected official post this, unironically, which now, of course, he's like, oh, no, it's just a joke, right? But no, I think with the seriousness of that post that I read to you, with that picture, come on, he meant it. And, of course, he got mocked for it. Maggie Levitt writes, "Our country is so cooked when sitting senators can't recognize a Star Wars prop replica." Mace Windu, yes, said, why did you post a picture of a replica TIE fighter? Are you stupid? Hey, we're just asking questions. We're asking questions here, all right? Nate Blown writes, "Good to know I will never be the dumbest state senator in the country." There you go. David Sirota writes, "He's going to demand Chief Palpatine order a full investigation led by the Imperial Senate. The Galactic Empire must be protected." And Sunny Bunch writes, finally, someone is showing up to restore order on this godforsaken planet of ours. You know, I'm not exactly sure if it were imperial rule, it would be that different than Donald Trump. What do I mean? The Empire in Star Wars was basically a massively corrupt fascist bureaucracy that spent all of its money on police and super weapons. Yeah, that's it. I don't think there's much of a difference there, except that none of us get cool spaceships or lightsabers, which I'm kind of sad about, actually. As I mentioned before, though, Mastriano tried to play this off as a joke. I was just messing around, just kidding. You know what I'm saying? I know exactly what that ship is. I know it's a TIE fighter. I've watched the Star Wars. Right. Okay. But here's the thing, though. When it comes to mystery drones in FAA airspace, it's actually not funny because stuff like this could lead to a collision. Okay. If you don't know what it is, you don't have a flight plan because they have to log their flight plans pretty meticulously, right? So that they can get tracked, so they can avoid having planes crash into each other. That's why we don't hear a lot about plane crashes. That's why when we actually do have a plane crash, it's pretty big news. Doesn't happen very often. Why? Because there's a lot of planning involved. There's a lot of safety involved, unless you're on a Boeing aircraft, of which, you don't know if like the wing's going to fall off or something. But that doesn't have anything to do with the FAA. Okay. It has a lot to do with Boeing being cheap. But anyway, deregulation. But anyway, you don't want a collision in midair. And the reason that we track things in our airspace so meticulously is that does not happen. And so if we have something in the airspace and we don't know what it is, well, yeah, that's going to be a legit concern. And there's a lot of people that are seeing weird things. All right. And you know what? It's so much of a concern that even Joe Biden was asked about it. And he had to come out and insist, don't worry, guys, no sense of danger, nothing at all. Not that anybody is going to believe that, because no one ever believes it. In fact, it even, spurs on more conspiracy theories, makes people even more entrenched in them, which is fun. But here's what he said, by the way. Nothing nefarious, apparently, but they're checking it all out. He told reporters at the White House on Tuesday, we're following this closely, but so far, no sense of danger. Well, to be fair, if they were going to be dangerous, then they probably would have been dangerous by now, because people have been seeing these things for quite some time. Okay. It's interesting, though. If they're aliens, obviously, they don't seem to feel comfortable landing. And I personally don't blame them. Okay, I wouldn't blame them at all. That's just my personal take on it. I mean, I do believe that there is, intelligent alien life somewhere in the universe. Whether or not they're coming here, I can't say. Okay, I can't say one way or another because I don't know. I haven't seen them. Why they would want to stop here, no idea. There's more than enough stuff out there that is way more interesting than what's happening in this backwater planet. Let me tell you what. Okay, there ain't nothing interesting going on here. Unless you're watching a reality show, and it'd be probably the worst one. This is the worst season yet. Okay, worst season yet. Let's just get to the finale already. Okay, but no, if it's not aliens, then something or someone is clearly violating FAA airspace, which is obviously something that you shouldn't be doing. Okay. And it could be, that there's AI hoaxes involved here in some of the videos that have been going on. I don't know. I can't tell you. But what I can say with certainty is that whatever it's up there, it's no moon. Republicans are coming for your Medicare and Social Security. On Tuesday, the House Doge Caucus met for the first time, which is a new congressional group based on the little dog that has been formed to support Elon Musk's advisory commission on cutting spending. So, here we have somebody from South Africa born, into a family that owned an emerald mine, telling Americans, hey, you're going to have to forego your medical benefits and your Social Security retirement benefits, disability benefits, because this guy said so. Oh, okay, great. Now, outside the conference room, Social Security Works Executive Director Alex Lawson decided to show up and ask Republicans whether or not they would uphold a promise, a campaign pledge made by President-elect Donald Trump, stating that he would protect Social Security and Medicare from any budget cuts. So, it's something Donald Trump promised. Oh, we're not going to touch Social Security. We're not going to touch your Medicare. Everything's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. It'll be great. It'll be tremendous. In fact, Social Security will be even stronger somehow. Now, that said, the answers that Lawson received from Republicans were not encouraging. In fact, one lawmaker Representative Greg Lopez told Lawson that, quote, when we look to reduce our national debt, I think these should be on the table. Why? Why would Social Security be on the table? Okay. It doesn't add a penny to the deficit or the debt. It is actually fully funded through payroll taxes. So, why would that be on the table? I'm just saying. As far as Medicare is concerned, that's also funded through Medicare taxes. But hey, it does cost some money. In fact, part of its big cost actually has a lot to do with the privatization efforts, Medicare Advantage plans. Nonetheless, those are benefits people need. Those are benefits people have been promised and have paid into for their entire working life. You can't touch it. You can't touch it. Now, that said, Lopez says, I am a strong advocate of discussing this and reevaluating them, meaning cuts, of course. And I do believe at the end of the day, there will be some cuts. There will be some cuts. And there it is. Medicare, the Republicans openly coming for your Medicare and Social Security. There's more, by the way. It's not just one lawmaker. Pete Sessions, co-chair of the Doge Caucus. But wait, when he was asked, he refused to answer. Oh, okay, here we go. This is whether or not he would commit to protecting Social Security and Medicare. In fact, Lawson reported or told reporters that most of the responses have been what I would say are no comment. Not no, just I refuse to answer. I refuse to answer. Really? Now, he says that's the safest position for a member of Congress, to have no position that they have to defend in front of their constituents. That's bad. Okay. Again, Social Security and Medicare are incredibly popular policies supported by the majority of Americans. And if you cannot say, yes, I stand with Donald Trump, President Trump, in his promise to defend Medicare and Social Security, that means you're going to cut it. It means they're going to vote to cut it. But they can't say anything because we don't want you to know that we're going to cut it. In fact, Lawson said if they had their way, they'll close every door and make all the decisions out of the light and watch of their constituents. Yeah. Now, that said, he was asking different lawmakers what their answer to this question would be. And so, naturally, Marjorie Taylor Greene was asked, and her answer, well, she didn't really have a no answer in the traditional sense. In fact, her answer was unhinged.
No, we're bipartisan.
Trump, no, you're not. We looked you up.
Yeah.
You are 100% funded by Democrats. You donate to Democrats. You're out here asking bullshit questions.
What is the bullshit question?
All of your questions.
This is a mailing. This is a mailing from
the American.
This is Donald Trump.
Trump. We all campaigned on protecting seniors' Social Security. You can't lie about it. See, yeah, this is your political agenda. You know what? We don't care.
That's Donald Trump. That's Donald Trump's mailing.
No, you're not media.
That's Donald Trump's mailing.
Right here is for Democrat ads to attack Republicans.
So it's really simple. It's really simple.
No, it's
Will
not
you
simple.
pledge
No, you're a
to
liar.
take Social Security and Medicare cuts off the table?
You and this guy right here, look, you're lying.
What am I lying about?
Because
I'm
President
asking
Trump-
you
President
to
Trump
take a
campaigned-
pledge.
I don't need to take a pledge because we've already done that all year long. And guess what? The sad story for you is the American people elected Trump, his agenda, and Republicans to lead the country because you guys suck so bad.
So I'm just wondering if you want to take a pledge to not cut Social Security and Medicare.
I am literally holding Donald Trump's exact words in my hand. Do you agree with him or not? This is a Democrat plot. You suck. What? Okay. I mean, what do you expect from Marjorie Greene? All she could have done is just say, "Yeah, of course, I stand with Donald Trump." And I stand with Donald Trump in saying that we are not going to touch your Social Security and Medicare benefits. And then she could walk away. I mean, try to use that in an ad, right? You really can't. But like this, her unhinged response, add gold. Okay. But again, here's the thing though. All they would have to do really for an ad is just to put all the statements that that Republicans have said about cutting Social Security and Medicare. That's all Democrats would ever have to do, okay? Because there are so many of them. And by the way, Democrats are not completely innocent of this as well. There are Democrats who have offered to put Social Security benefits on the table. Remember, back in 2014, yes, the fiscal cliff negotiations, where the Obama-Biden administration said that they would be willing to do something called chained CPI benefits, which would effectively be a cut in benefits. Okay. Now, that said, Republicans at the time rejected it. Oh, wow. They're defending Social Security and Medicare. No, turns out it was rejected because the cuts weren't steep enough. They wanted more cuts. They got greedy. And so, yes, you have politicians out there, both sides of the aisle, that have put Medicare and Social Security cuts on the table. Even though, once again, Social Security does not add a penny to the debt or the deficit. That said, Republicans have been targeting Social Security and Medicare since pretty much its inception. And so they've been coming after it, chipping away, trying to, reverse this very effective New Deal program that has kept so many seniors out of poverty. They've gone after it, and they just don't want you to know it. Okay, that's the issue here. In fact, look, the Republican Study Committee has actually had a very long history of proposing cuts to this program. And yet Republicans still have to pretend that they're protecting these programs because they're very popular among the voters. Okay, not so popular among their donors, which is why they keep trying to privatize it. Again, they're lying when they say that they have to cut Social Security to reduce debt and deficits. The program doesn't rely on any borrowed money. You're not taking out debt to finance Social Security. That's not what happens. No, but as I mentioned, the donor class wants to privatize this program so that they can monetize it for themselves. And that's it. To get into the trust fund and use it for whatever they want. Probably, very likely, Wall Street investments, right? You might think that sounds fine. Yeah, okay. If they invest it and they do well, that means we get more money in our retirement, right? No, you won't see any additional benefit. And if they lose it, there goes your retirement. Oops. Oh, is it? Oh, did I just accidentally blow away your retirement with our investments? Oops.
Bing, 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 boom. It's gone.
Sorry. but not sorry. But for a while, I was actually making good, good returns on investment. But you're screwed. Sorry. What they do is they privatize the gains and socialize the losses. That's what Wall Street wants to do with your retirement. And look, they've already done some of that with Medicare Advantage plans, right? I mean, Medicare Advantage is a private plan that uses mostly United Healthcare Group. Yeah. And United Healthcare Group has been sued for using a faulty AI model that denied 90% of claims. Yeah. They say it's a faulty model because most of those claims, the vast majority of those claims, were for legitimate medical care. But nonetheless, denied 90%. 90% of claims. And they made lots and lots of money off of it. That's what they want to do to the entirety of Medicare. Okay? Not just, push certain people off it, but just to completely privatize it 100%. Right now, you can stay on traditional Medicare, which is better. Okay, because it'll actually be there when you need to use it. They want to just completely get rid of it, privatize it, and turn it over for their personal gain and not yours. Okay, and look, here's the thing: under Medicare Advantage, Medicare actually spends more money now per patient for these Medicare Advantage plans. So part of that spending, again, a lot of it goes to administrative costs. Traditional Medicare has far lower administrative costs because it's simpler, okay? And it doesn't have that for-profit model. It doesn't have all that bloat that comes along with turning it into a for-profit model. But you see what Republicans are doing. They take this additional cost, right, from these Medicare Advantage plans, and then they're like, look at how inefficient Medicare is. Oh, look at all the money that they're spending, even though a lot of that extra spending comes from this bloat from the private plans. But their solution is, well, you got to privatize it completely or cut it. And we got to do something. The ultimate plan, though, is to take something that works and is a public plan and turn it completely private for their own and their donors' profits. That's the Republican plan. That's it. So expect them, though, to try it when we're not looking. More details have come out about the teen girl that perpetrated the deadly shooting at the Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin, early this week. Initially, police falsely reported that the shooter was 17 years old, but later correctly identified the deceased shooter as 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow, who went by the nickname Samantha or Sam. She was apparently obsessed with school shooters and the TCC, or True Crime Community, which is a nickname used for the de facto international Columbine fandom. Imagine being a fan of a school shooter. So already that is disastrous, okay? And by the way, we get this information from her social media presence, okay? For example, her Tumblr, which she last posted in May of 2024, was filled with content lionizing school shooters, okay? There was also an alleged online friend of the shooter saying that she had posted about school shooters all the time and had, quote, school shooter leanings. So, look, this young girl, if this is true, would join over the 100 copycat-inspired shooters that were inspired by Columbine since 1999. There was also a Twitter account that was believed to belong to her that had posted a series of videos that would tease and glorify school shootings. And this was posted in the days leading up to her own school shooting. So this account was created in December of 2024, and the profile picture actually featured a young man in camo pants and a tactical backpack. Now, why does that matter? Well, that male profile picture was from another Columbine copycat school shooter from Russia who was the same age as Natalie Rupnow. So now there's that, right? But there's more, right? Because this goes into some of the reaction here. Basically, what a lot of far-right accounts on X/Twitter tried to do with that information is to transvestigate her, okay? And say, see, we got another trans shooter, which, no, doesn't seem to be the case at all. More likely that this child is someone who fell down the right-wing neo-Nazi pipeline, okay, and had other friends. Apparently, once again, a lionization of school shooters, all right? Now, there's a neo-Nazi Twitter account, I know, named Nitro, who claimed to be friends with the shooter on Discord, and repeatedly denied the accusations the shooter was a transgender girl, calling her a quote-unquote biological woman. Well, she was a teenager, a child, of 15. So I don't know if that's a biological woman thing is all that correct either. But anyway, that said, that should be taken with a grain of salt because, again, the source is a neo-Nazi. So, but there's a lot of information that is coming out that, you know, you should be wary of and you should not take as gospel. I'm certainly not taking anything, even the stuff that I have here, not 100% sure about it. But so far, from what it seems, fan of school shooters. Okay. Now, that said, her alleged Twitter account posted a link to a Google Doc of her supposed manifesto. Apparently, she forgot to make it public, and so can't really read it. But Nitro claimed to find what he believed to be a part of it shared by the shooter in a Discord group chat. Now, Nitro happens to be in the UK, so if this is actually what he's saying it is, then her message would have been sent about an hour and a half before the shooting. So now, do I want to read that? I read it, and I'm going to put the link in the description, okay, of this video, but I don't want to read it because it's filled with racial slurs and some really disturbing language, okay, and mainly a desire to do violence against men, okay, and so I don't want to read that to you guys. If you want to, again, link in the description, okay. There's all sorts of again, racial slurs and references to somebody called Radfem Hitler. So, I mean, that right there, I mean, okay, that's very right-wing, okay? So, a lot of people came to the conclusion that she is what you would call a femcel or a female incel, which is, again, somebody that just pretty much wants to do violence against the opposite sex, okay? And so now Radfem Hitler happens to be referenced to a Twitter influencer by the same name and a handle, Hollow Earth Turf, okay? Now, her content happens to be a mix of trad-influenced right-wing feminism, advocating traditional gender roles for men and women, and is obviously against transgender people. So Radfem Hitler also apparently supports a purging of men, and in that she includes trans women because of that whole, you know, traditional gender roles type of thing. She does not believe that trans women are women. So obviously she's not really having a lot of fans on both sides of the political spectrum for the obvious, you know, desires to have men murdered. And also the, you know, all the other neo-Nazi, racist, horrible stuff that she believes in. So that said, of the few fans she does have, they're conservative radfem women with some trad and occult interests. Okay, so again, not a very big group of people, but still some pretty crazy people. All right. Now, that said, Definitely someone, getting back to the shooter here, who had some serious issues. Obvious. I think that's super obvious. That said, am I taking Nitro's words, seriously? I'm going to take them with a grain of salt, or not just a grain of salt, a lot of salt. Okay. That said, this Nitro person was the first one to correctly identify and post photos of the shooter, so I guess he knows something. I'm not going to completely discount him, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of the things that he is saying turn out to be incorrect, or if some of the other alleged manifestos floating around also happen to be, incorrect or have wrong details. Okay, so again, just putting that out there. That said, if she actually was a neo-Nazi femcel, that's really something you don't see often. All right, and it's very, very different. Look, there's a lot of different purported manifestos floating around, as I mentioned before. For example, there's one that doesn't really mention the anti-men stuff, right? But it does keep the racism and the inspiration of past school shooters in it. So, I mean, there's some racist, white supremacist ideology in there as well. Other accounts release what may have been her writing, which describes a difficult personal family life, some thoughts of self-harm, and of course, admiration for school shooters and white supremacists. I don't know if this is, again, 100% her writing. I don't know. But what I do know is that none of these purported writings have any mention of being transgender. So I guess there's that. And once again, that's the reason that's very important to mention, is that there's a lot of far-right accounts, including libs of TikTok and wokeness, all the usual suspects of pushing hatred towards the transgender community, that have been basically taking this tragedy and trying to push that, right? Saying that this is a transgender terrorist, right? No, apparently it just seems to be the work of a Columbine school shooter fangirl who may or may not be also a neo-Nazi or have neo-Nazi ties or white supremacist ties. Not entirely sure, okay? Now, I could also say, by the way, that it's a distraction for talking about gun control. That would be possibly true, why they're pushing the transgender terrorist stuff. But I think it goes further. I think this is part of a concentrated effort to try to erase transgender people from society by demonizing them, by blaming them for violence. 95% of all, shooters, school shooters, mass shooters, are cisgendered men, young cisgendered men. So, that happens to be the major demographic here. About 5% are women, and like less than 1% are transgender or non-binary, LGBTQ, whatever. And so they're definitely trying to push this falsehood. And the reason I think that they're doing so is they're trying to give people a legitimate reason to hate trans people for simply existing. And so it's very important to come with the facts, as far as we know them, okay, and to really push back against a narrative that never seems to be true. All these supposed, transgender shooters never were. There was one person that attempted to, I think it was a Pulse night club shooter, that attempted to say that they were non-binary, but once again, that really didn't turn out to be true. So, and none of the claims of like, transgender shooter, there was one within the past few years that identified as transgender. The rest, not so much. Okay. Very, very rare, much more rare to have a transgender shooter than even a female shooter. Both pretty rare, but in a country where you have this massive amount of gun violence that happens, specifically school shootings, then yeah, you're gonna get a mix of all sorts of people that have perpetrated it. And so maybe that's where the focus ought to be, is trying to prevent them than to use this tragedy to blame certain outgroups for it. Just a thought. Manosphere influencer Andrew Tate is getting millions of dollars seized by the UK government. Huh. Why? Well, apparently for back taxes. Now, how did they find out? Well, he basically admitted it.
My tax affairs are fully in order in Romania because I pay 3%. But when I lived in England, I refused to pay tax. It was 40%. So they started sending me letters and threatening me. Do you know what you do? You know what most people would do? Reply to the letter, get a clever accountant. Guess what I did? Ignore the letters. Ignore. Then they start sending people around to my house. Where's Andrew? Oh, he's not here. Ignore. There becomes a point where there's a cost-benefit analysis where they sit down and go, we don't know where this guy is. We don't even know how much money he has. We don't know if he's going to pay. He might have left the country. This is a waste of our time. And they give up because everyone's a coward and fills in the form. I don't fill in forms. No, you want my money? Come get it. Come get it.
Now, the Brits saw this and they were like, challenge accepted. According to Mediaite, a British court on Wednesday ruled that $3 million of Tate's funds can be seized to settle his long-standing tax debts. In fact, Chief Magistrate Paul Goldspring of Westminster Magistrates Court deemed that bank transfers, executed by Andrew and his brother Tristan, were just meant to hide his money. They were a straightforward cheat designed to sidestep years of unpaid taxes. Because, of course, as a result, 7 different bank accounts containing funds, they tried to move in between those accounts to try to stay ahead of the tax ban, that authorities say are tied to their online ventures, will now be taken by police to cover back taxes the pair allegedly dodged. In fact, a lawyer representing the police portrayed the Tates as, quote, serial offenders who failed to pay any taxes on 21 million pounds in revenue, which is about $26 million in U.S. money, collected from a cluster of online ventures, including something called War Room, Hustlers University, Cobra Tate, and OnlyFans between 2014 and 2022. Those assets will help recoup an estimated $3.4 million now locked under the court's order. Congratulations. For once, this guy forced a government to go after a tax cheat by basically mocking them and challenging them, daring them to come after his money, and admitting to tax evasion on a live stream. Wow. I thought this guy was supposed to be smart.
Stupid.
Yeah. Not very smart.
You idiot.
Okay. Oh my God. I wish by the way, that they would go after tax cheats here in America. That would be fantastic. Look, the IRS normally goes after regular people. Why? Because they don't have the resources to go after the rich. So they never do, because the rich hire lawyers and get carve-outs, in the tax code through lobbying. And so yeah, it's pretty difficult to go after wealthy people, which is why Republicans, by the way, pushed so hard to get rid of the $80 billion that President Biden gave to the IRS for the purpose of going after wealthy tax cheats. Well, now that Trump's coming into office, guess we can kiss that goodbye. And, well, for regular people, now the IRS is going to be more inclined to recoup money from you instead of people like Andrew Tate. Like American Andrew Tates. All right. Now, that said, look, this guy obviously wanted to ignore taxes, evade taxes. And guess what? Rich people in America want to do the same thing. And so Republicans want rich people to do here what Andrew Tate admitted to doing in the UK, which is just ignore your taxes. Don't worry about it. Now, what's funny here is that in America, the wealthy actually pay a lower percentage of their income in taxes than the middle class. Like Warren Buffett's secretary, pays a higher tax rate than Warren Buffett at Berkshire Hathaway. And that's pretty messed up. I mean, the tax code is so incredibly weighted towards the wealthy now in letting them get away with not paying their fair share. It's insane. We got to do something about it. Unfortunately, Republicans are coming into power, and they're going to be their first order of business is to give massive tax cuts to the rich and corporations, which is going to facilitate the largest theft from the middle class and the poor that we've ever seen. So buckle up for that. That said, getting back to Tate, he's mad. He's very angry, right? In fact, he called this quote unquote outright theft. No, that's actually what you did in not paying your fair share, not paying what you owe to the government for the infrastructure that you took advantage of. Roads, bridges, reliable power, all that stuff, reliable infrastructure, safety, all that stuff, you pay taxes for. Yeah, it's kind of what it's supposed to go to. But anyway, Tate's lawyer, Martin Evans, claimed that their business arrangements were, quote unquote, entirely orthodox and no different from legitimate entrepreneurs who invest their profits into exotic motor cars or other luxury assets. Oh, yes. See, a new luxury car for me is a legitimate non-taxable business expense. Why should I have to pay taxes on my Bugatti? Because that's not a legitimate business expense. Okay. I mean, not in the case of being non-taxable. Okay. No, that's definitely taxable asset. Okay. And there's no problem with you buying a Bugatti with the rest of your money. I don't understand why you think that you deserve a tax cut for that. Insane. And look, personally, I don't believe Tate even runs a legitimate business. He runs a scam academy, a scam university, where he gets loser men to pay him give him money so that he can teach them how to make money and get women. Anytime where someone says, oh yeah, no, you just pay me, right? And I'll teach you how to make money. Pay me money so you can make money. That is always a scam. All right. I don't know how people don't see that, don't understand that. But I mean, that's it. I mean, you should never have to pay for that. Okay. Simple as that. Okay. If you're paying Andrew Tate, then for one, you already have money to waste. So maybe you should invest that into something smarter. You start your own business, things like that. Okay. Try to invest it in a more intelligent way. I would avoid like Haktua coin. Okay. And stuff like that, obvious scams. But again, you can invest in a intelligent way. If you're giving it to Andrew Tate, it doesn't sound all that intelligent. And if you're going to Andrew Tate for dating advice, that's even worse. This guy's an alleged sex trafficker. He's an alleged rapist who allegedly had to lie to women to get them to come to Romania, where he would then allegedly entrap them and force them to do pornography that he would make money off of. It doesn't exactly sound like a good role model there, or a good person, or someone who is very smart. In fact, one key piece of evidence presented at a previous hearing came from a video posted online in which he had stated, quote, "When I lived in England, I refused to pay tax." Well, there you go. You got him. Oh, wait.
Oh my God! He admitted!
Right there, on camera. Really? You're going to admit to doing tax evasion? Come on. Well done. Tremendous. That said, in a statement, he cried, "This is not justice. It's a coordinated attack on anyone who dares to challenge the system." What system? System of taxation? I don't know what he's talking about. This raises serious questions about the lengths authorities will go to silence dissent. You know, for somebody who's supposed to be a strong alpha male, he sure does a lot of whining, crying. I am a victim. I am a victim of the Matrix. What? No, you're a moron. You're a moron who apparently loves to admit that you're doing crime in front of the camera. So, I guess you deserve what you get. The Democratic establishment is facing some backlash after rejecting new leadership in the wake of its disastrous loss to Donald Trump and the Republican Party. In fact, we're going to start off with the New Republic's Kate Aronoff kicks off the criticism in a piece entitled, Pelosi Won, the Democratic Party Lost. Now, in that piece, she talks about how Pelosi, behind the scenes, made some calls, really threw her weight behind Jerry Connolly to try to stop Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from chairing the powerful House Oversight Committee. So she won, meaning that the 74-year-old Jerry Connolly is going to get that position. That is despite his recent diagnosis of throat cancer, which according to medical experts is pretty disastrous, okay? Speaking to Dan Boguslaw over at Ken Klippenstein's Substack, these medical professionals say that this diagnosis is really, really bad news. Dr. James Stark, a Harvard-educated 30-year veteran oncologist, told Boguslaw, quote, the cure rate is extremely low. And even under the most favorable of circumstances, only a tiny minority can be cured. Oh, that's not good. Even worse is the fact that while the 5-year survival rate for esophageal cancer is about 20%, so 1 in 5 survival, when it is already large or has spread to other parts of the body, treatment is more difficult, and the 5-year survival rate is lower. That's according to the U.S. government's National Cancer Institute. Yikes. Now, Connolly has already said that he is undergoing chemotherapy. Now, the NCI says it's used when cancer cells have spread to other parts of the body. So, what that means is, barring a miracle, Jerry Connolly is facing some very, very long odds of being able to survive. He may die in office while chairing a committee responsible for overseeing ethics and accountability. Remember, there's a 5-year window, okay? 5 years. And that's a 1 in 5 chance of surviving the next 5 years. Meaning that he'll be in that position. Maybe he won't even survive the entire Trump administration. Obviously, I hope that he does. I hope that these medical professionals are wrong. I have no desire to see someone die in office, right? Nonetheless, these are some very significant challenges. And even if he does manage to survive, which is certainly possible, going through this is a grueling process. I mean, Dr. Stark said of the treatment, quote, it is a horrendous thing to undergo. After radiation and chemo, a patient will likely have his esophagus removed. If that happens, they'll take a piece of the stomach and hook it up to the area where they remove the tissue. So that is a serious procedure, which again, for somebody who is younger, still would require a lot of recovery time. Connolly is 74. He's not exactly young. And so that recovery time is going to be tough. Okay. Now, of course, there's another Pennsylvania surgeon who told Dan straight up, quote, this man is clearly dying. This is insanity. Meaning, of course, that why is he chairing a committee that is so instrumental, so important? And so, yeah, I mean, that's That's pretty stark. Okay. Another doctor put it, quote, his goose is cooked. Wow. And so that gets me to ask the question, why does it seem that older Democrats keep wanting to die in office rather than pass the torch to a younger generation? I mean, look, I don't want to presume to speak for anybody else, but for me, if I were in that position, I would want to spend what time I have left with my family and friends and not sit there in committee hearings while suffering from the effects of radiation chemotherapy. All right? I wouldn't want to do that. That'd be horrible. Why would you want to do that? Is it so hard for them to give up their power? I mean, it's not like you can take it with you. It's not like it'll matter within 5 years. And not for him, but for the rest of us, it does matter. And again, even if he does survive this, recovery is going to be very, very difficult. And it makes me question whether or not he'll have the stamina and strength to be able to do his job effectively and to hold Donald Trump accountable. I would say personally, no. I would say no. And that, I think it's a big problem here. And that kind of tells me that Democrats are not planning to do a lot of resistance during this Trump administration. And that's a problem. It feels like to me that they have basically begun to fall in line, at least the politicians, right? I mean, because if you were planning to resist, then wouldn't you put your stronger fighters on the forefront in these leadership positions? AOC is young, she's smart, she's progressive. And, you know, and here's the other thing, right? She's been trying to play nice with her colleagues. So much so that there's a lot of people on the left who are very mad about it. They want her to be more disruptive, but she's like, no, if I play nice, then I'm going to get accepted into the halls of power, and then I'll be able to do progressive things. It's sort of like the insider strategy, right? And of course, it's made a lot of people on the left very, very angry that she's been trying to play nice in that system. And a lot of them are going to point to this and say, well, your insider strategy didn't work. Because even if you try to play nice, they're going to see that not only are you young, but you're progressive. We're going to deny you leadership because you haven't been here long enough. You haven't paid your dues. Okay. But the problem here is that right now, the old way of doing things that these Democrats continue to do is not working anymore. And so that's the problem, right? And look, AOC, she knows what the country wants to see with policy. I think she'd be great at holding Republicans accountable. And yet Pelosi and the establishment, they did everything that they could to block her from taking that position. And that leads many people to wonder why. And more importantly, how is putting in Connolly going to help Democrats hold Trump accountable? And how is blocking younger progressives from leadership going to help them win elections? And I can't answer that. Other than, for my opinion, is it's not going to help Democrats win election. Okay? I think that putting the same leadership in power that lost to Trump over young new leadership, I think it's going to just ask for more losses. That's what they're doing. They're asking for more losses. Getting back to Aronoff's piece, she said, quote, the elderly are not too old to govern, but they may in this case be too attached to a failed way of doing things. And so, like, if you're saying that, oh, you guys are just making ageist arguments, you're against old people. No, we're not against old people. We're against old ways of doing things. Okay? And that's the other thing, right? So that's why there's not a lot of criticism for Bernie Sanders, who is pretty old. Honestly, I hope he does not run for president again, because I don't think that he would survive. He's an elderly man, but he's on the right side, right? He's on the right side of the issues. For the most part, there are times where I disagree with him, but his heart's in the right place, and that he's actually fighting for a progressive future. And so, that's why there's not a lot of pushback for him, even though I do think, and then maybe I'm a minority here, but I think if for the progressive movement, I think he's going to pass the torch. And I don't think he would have a problem with it, honestly, because I think he understands as well that, it is time to get young progressive leaders in these leadership positions. Nonetheless, right, getting back to Aronoff, she points out that when it comes to the old ways, a lot of the reasons why the older generation is doing things the way that they're doing, and they're doing things that don't work, is because they're wedded to the money. Connolly, for example, has taken a lot of money from defense contractors. Okay, and so that's going to be an issue. Remember, the Pentagon budget. There's trillions of dollars that they can't account for. They have failed their 7th audit. And I don't think that Connolly would pay attention to that and say, no, we need to, draw down defense spending, because he gets all these donations from the defense industry. Another example, Richard Neal. Richard Neal is, again, going to lead one of these committees on health, and he is the top recipient of donations from the health insurance industry. So, that means basically no change in defense, no change on healthcare policy from the Democratic Party. And that's kind of the problem here, right? That's why they're not going to change things. And I don't know if you know this, or they know this. I'm sure you know this. The country is not exactly enamored right now with the defense industry or the health insurance industry. So, not exactly happy with any of that. In fact, 62% of Americans say, you know what? I think the government should have a role in ensuring that every American has health care. And so, yeah, that's it. When you look at the people that are chairing these positions, these very important committees that are deciding on policy positions, I look at these people that are put in there, and I realize the Democratic Party does not want to change. Does not want to change at all. The problem with that is you have to change if you want to win. Because obviously, we went with a no change status quo candidate last time in the presidential election, and a lot of these down ballot races, and still couldn't win. Whereas Donald Trump represents a change candidate. Now, all the changes are going to be terrible, but it's a change candidate. And so there you go. I don't think, based on this, Democrats are really too concerned about winning, which is not good, because if Republicans keep winning, we all lose. Okay. That said, I want to show you Chris Hayes' reaction to this.
It feels like a moment of genuine madness. As a general matter, this is a very risky undertaking for everyone. And Democrats are not taking this issue seriously, despite everything that's happened, but they need to. Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire just said she's undecided if she will run for another 6-year term in 2026, when she will be 79 years old. And again, this is nothing against Senator Shaheen personally, but according to Pew polling from just last year, 79% of Americans support age limits for politicians in Washington. That is a striking, overwhelming number in today's polarized environment. 79% of Americans don't agree on anything, but they agree on this. And Democrats should listen.
Democrats should listen, but as we've seen, I don't think they will. Because for them, keeping the neoliberal establishment intact, keeping things status quo, to them seems far more important than anything else. That's why I say primary them. Primary, so that we can get new people in. And new people, the more young people, the more progressive people there are, the more they can start to take away from our current failed leadership. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.